In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips specifically for manager level roles and how can you improve your chances to pass these job interviews. The first interesting tip I wanted to share would be that as a manager level role, you're assumed to be proficient with behavioral interviews already. Okay, and my experience has been that not everyone that I'm working with is already up to speed with their behavioral interviewing skills. So a quick way you'd want to self-assess is that you feel comfortable speaking about failure, or comfortable speaking about your weakness, or comfortable speaking about how you deal with conflict. This would be a starting point. If you do, then you're basically there. That's a great starting point. But if you struggle answering these types of questions, then your next logical step would be to improve on basic behavioral interviewing skills. Okay. The second thing I like to talk about here is that I found manager level role have a tendency to over theorize their job interviews. So probably because you have a lot of knowledge about these things, about how interviews work, about leading with authority in some cases, you conceptualize too much on what makes a great answer in a behavioral interview. And the reason for saying this is that many of you would greatly benefit for a hands-on approach to prepare these interviews, that is to literally give interview answers and role play, and to be able to self-assess and to qualify how good your answers become. This is when compared, with building behaviorally anchored rating skills and based on key behaviors, building your own logic to prepare. Too much theory, it's not as useful as you might think to prepare for specifically to pass job interviews. Okay. Number 3 tip I like to talk about here specifically for manager level roles is that many of you don't really know how to pitch the seniority of your role. So there are basically 3 types of managers, according to my understanding at least. There would be the line managers, the most basic one. There would be the middle managers, and that would be the top managers. Okay, for the line managers, you're still basically selling yourself as a subject matter expert in some technical vertical, for instance, but still with some management abilities. You could even stretch it that you have program management abilities if needed to, but small stuff. The middle managers is where, the subject matter expertise or the vertical, the niche wouldn't be as crucially important versus your ability to manage. And the top managers, it's where the relevance of a vertical is much less interesting when compared to focusing on your outcomes as a pure manager, as an executive. Oftentimes, so decide which of these are you, because these will greatly influence the way you'd answer these interview questions, right? And also, in some, as a side note here, many of the job titles nowadays have managers in them, where there's purely individual contributor types of roles. In either case, behavior interview skills do matter, but the question is, how do you sell yourself best on these things? To what degree you would use technical expertise versus management expertise in your answers, right? This is my point. Number 4 here, manager level roles versus program managers. Okay, so program managers, most of the time, to my knowledge and to my experience coaching people, are leading without authority. Okay, so essentially just project managers for the long term. Okay, so this is the expectation, at least to my experience. So manager level roles, whenever they hear about program management considerations in job interviews, this happened recently with NVIDIA, they would assume that is basically a position where you would be essentially leading with authority over the long term and stuff like that. In my experience, that's not really the case. So you should really decide for yourself to what extent program management matters for a manager level type of role. Okay, and the fifth and the last tip is that in my experience and for manager level roles in particular, one super common reason why people fail these interviews is because they don't prioritize them, right? So it's oftentimes that you must sell this to yourself as something that's worthwhile pursuing. Okay, so I often hear times, hey, Dan, I don't have time to schedule our next coaching sessions because I'm too busy at work. Yeah, okay, I understand it once, but sometimes you have to take decisions to see what's most interesting and what most to build a compelling case for your application. And if that specific application isn't most interesting to be worth deprioritizing some work projects for that, then maybe you should consider interviewing with 3 other companies. So so your investment of time in role play, in interview coaches, in interview training, and building your story bank makes more sense. Okay, so there is a significant investment of time, especially for manager level roles where you're supposed to already be good with behavioral interviews, but you should go the extra mile. So you must sell it to yourself as a worthwhile initiative. So hopefully this was useful, and thank you very much for watching.